Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. I'm Sergeant Frost, and in this guide, you're going to learn how you can start getting more kills by learning from the pro player ScreaM. ScreaM is a former CSGO legend who is considered an aim god, well known for his one-taps and clutch performances, and is now looking to make a name for himself in Valorant. In this guide, you're going to learn how to properly play aggressive on defense and the benefits to doing so, how you can create successful picks on offense, along with some tips to increase your efficiency when entry fragging. So let's jump straight into this game, starting off with round 4 on defense. ScreaM and his team are now on their first full buy round this game. He opts to go with the Phantom, full armor, and all of his utility on top of having his ultimate ready. Now, tell me if this doesn't sound familiar to you. You're playing defense, the round starts, and suddenly your teammates die on the opposite side of the map, and the attackers plant the bomb and take control of the site, making it impossible for you to rotate in time. This is one of the most common problems players face, and there's actually an easy solution to it. Playing a more forward position on defense to gather intel and gain map control. If we look at ScreaM and Rey's position on the map, right off the bat they push into showers. This type of aggressive push on defense can be beneficial for several reasons. Firstly, gaining control of showers will severely limit the options the attackers would have if they chose to attack A site, with them only being able to go A short. Additionally, if they do push A short, the enemy team will suddenly find ScreaM and Rey's with surprise flank behind them, picking up easy kills. And lastly, if they don't spot anyone outside of showers, and no one is spotted pushing short A, then they immediately know the enemy team is going to hit B site. And they can preemptively rotate teammates to stack B site along with a teammate or two pushing through market for a flank. Great, so now you understand just how powerful pushing out a position on defense can be. However, there's also a ton of risk that comes with it, so you need to know how to do it properly. Firstly, notice how they've kept a teammate Sova on A site while they push out of showers. Most importantly is how Sova is taking a very safe, passive position. Since Sova is essentially on A site by himself, he can't be in too forward of a position as he can get trapped and killed by a push. In a more passive position, if the enemy pushes 5 on site, then Sova can try to get a pick, fall back, and his team can play the retake. Secondly, notice how ScreaM and his teammate Rey's are pushing out together. This is huge and one of the biggest mistakes players make when trying to push out on defense. Do not push by yourself, as if you lose a gunfight, you will put your team in a terrible position with a defender down. You need a teammate to help push with you, so that you can trade a kill if one of you dies, keeping the teams even. Notice how close ScreaM is positioned to Rey's as they peek corners. Now, Rey's gets sniped as she slow peeks the corner by Cypher, who happen to be watching for a defender to push out of showers. And take note of how ScreaM immediately swings wide and tries to trade the kill. In this case, he's not able to trade due to the enemy Cypher playing such a tight angle and immediately falling back. Something to take note for you AWPers out there. However, this was still a great example of good fundamentals on display by ScreaM, and the majority of the time he would have been trade killed. To ScreaM's benefit, he likely remained undetected as Cypher ran off after taking the shot and probably didn't see him swing the corner. ScreaM is in a tough situation here. He now has the info that Cypher is an AWP and that the attackers are likely close by to A. What would you do in this situation? Run back to A site where it is safe and wait for a push while you are a man down? Or should you push out of showers and look to trade his teammate and gain more intel? If you answered he should go back to site and play with his Sova, you are right. This is good for several reasons. First, as a general rule, when an attacking team gets a pick on a defender, they tend to push the site they got a pick at. In this case, that would be A site. By ScreaM falling back to a more defensive position, the hope is that he can stall the push long enough for his teammates at B to rotate through and help with the defense. Second, with Rey's just dying, it makes sense for Cypher to repeat this angle, looking to aggressively move into showers to take control there. Think of it from the attacker's perspective. If you got a pick on a defender, it doesn't exactly make a ton of sense to suddenly back off and pressure a different location. You'll want to continue moving forward now that you got a pick, looking to take further map control of that location. However, ScreaM goes for the much riskier, more aggressive play by trying to avenge his teammate and uses Reyna's utility to close the gap. He uses his first blind to bait the operator shot so he can move forward and get closer to the enemy where his Phantom will be stronger. He then looks to commit his swing off the second blind and take the gunfight. As he swings the corner, he manages to get a nice headshot on a Brimstone. But unfortunately, there were 2 attackers watching showers, and Cypher refrags his teammate and takes down ScreaM with an AWP before he even has a chance to retaliate. Again, this really highlights our earlier point of why you want a teammate with you when you push. In this case, the attackers are the ones who put this to use, with them being able to trade a kill on ScreaM. In this round, you learned how pushing for intel on defense can be valuable, but also risky. To mitigate this risk, you always want a teammate to push with you in order to trade a kill, while any teammates that remain in sight should be in a passive, safe position. Now moving into the follow-up round, round 5. One thing I want to point out to begin round 5 is the team's map positions. Recently in pro play and in high elo, it has become meta for 3 people to play on B site and 2 to play on A site on the map bind on defense. This comes from the belief that B site is a harder site to retake if the defense loses control of the site. This leads defenses to put 3 people in various positions on B site in an effort to hold it better against attackers. You might ask, well, what about A site? A site is unique because it is more open and has multiple flank routes connected to it, which will in turn give the defenders a much better chance of retaking A site in comparison to B site. Not to mention, B site also has a teleporter close by on B long, which will put them right behind the attackers if they choose to attack A site. If we look at the map, we see Reyna, Sage, and Omen on B site, along with Sova and Raze on A site. Omen and Sage are on B site because of their utility amongst them will allow them to hold off a multi-angle push from attackers from both hookah and B long. Remember, with B site being more difficult to retake, it is more important that we stop any push from being successful in the first place. Sova and Raze are fine on A site as they have long-range damage utility and intelligence gathering abilities that will allow them to hold A site until rotations come through. To start this round, ScreaM tells his team he wants to get a pick on mid, so he elects to play up in hookah as he looks to take an aggressive early peek into market. And remember, whenever you plan on pushing aggressively on defense, you always need a teammate with you, and we will see Sage group with ScreaM, prepared to swing with him so that he can trade kill in the event that ScreaM dies. As the round starts, he preps his flash to throw through hookah wall and into B main. He makes a smart play here and waits a second before pushing out to bait out the Sova arrow to prevent taking damage. Additionally, delaying your peek outside of hookah by a few seconds is always a good idea on bind, as the enemy is often watching as the round starts for a push, and this slight delay can lull them into a false sense of security. After the threat of Sova's arrows pass, he throws his flash above him and swings the corner. Remember, throwing Reyna's flash above you gives you the best chance of blinding multiple people, as an enemy would have to flick their crosshair up and away from you to shoot it out. This gives you a small timing window of opportunity to shoot a potential enemy before they have a chance to shoot back. After he flashes B main, he spots Raze, who was blinded and took cover in market. After he calls her out to his team, he preps another flash and looks to reswing the same corner, looking to land the kill this time around. Now we're not going to lie, if you were in this position, we would probably advise you to not re-peek and instead back off and hold the site. The peek successfully gained intel, and it's likely the defenders are watching hookah now as they have been alarmed by the first peek. However, this is ScreaM we're talking about, who has immense confidence in his godlike aim and is playing the agent Reyna who flourishes off kills. With the support of his teammate Sage, they push out a hookah and notice how Brimstone is busy shooting Reyna's blind. This allows ScreaM to land a nice headshot on Brimstone without him being able to fire back, and showing the value of a proper blind positioning. It is also in this moment that we get a fantastic lesson of how to use Reyna's dismiss ability. Notice how before he killed Brimstone, he saw Raze in market. He's currently positioned completely out in the open, and with him spraying down Brimstone, he'll need to wait a decent amount of time for his accuracy to reset. This means that if Raze peeks from market, he's likely just dead. This is why he knows to use his dismiss ability on the orb dropped by Brimstone, this way he can get back to cover. Next is a great lesson on how to properly peek and control your angles. Notice how he jiggle peeks the corner instead of wide swinging. Doing this minimizes the amount of angles his agent is exposed to, strictly focusing on the left side of market where he last saw Raze. This allows him to frag Cypher 1v1, despite there being multiple enemies just to the right of him. Again, knowing enemies are nearby, he immediately activates Dismiss to get back to cover, but it's here that we see him use Dismiss in a more advanced way, for intel. With him still having a long duration of Dismiss active, he peeks to gain information while he's still invulnerable, then he gets back to cover as it expires. Great, he knows where Sage is and that she was moving to peek him from the left. With this information, ScreaM peeks again and lands the kill on Sage. Now, this isn't just as simple as ScreaM swinging out to kill Sage. There's one other thing at play here, Peeker's Advantage. Peeker's Advantage has two main parts to it. First has to do with your latency or ping. You see, there's an inherent delay from the internet connection between your computer and Valorant server, and this actually is a huge byproduct. The person who is peeking is actually able to see the other player sooner. Second, when you're the one peeking, you've mentally prepared yourself for the upcoming gunfight, giving you a faster reaction time. Compare this to the opponent who doesn't know when exactly you're going to peek or if you're going to peek at all. So, by ScreaM first using his Dismiss ability to scout the location of Sage, he's essentially prepared himself to then use Peeker's Advantage to give him the highest likelihood of winning the fight. Compare this to if he had stood still and held the angle and waited for Sage to peek him. This would be the wrong thing to do, as he'd be conceding Peeker's Advantage to Sage, making it harder for him to win the gunfight. Again, we see ScreaM to use that Dismiss ability to peek around the corner while invulnerable to gain further intel and spotting Raze. And now we know exactly why he's going to do this. Utilizing Peeker's Advantage to swing on the enemy Raze, eventually running her down and closing out the round before it even had a chance to get started. In this round, you learn the importance of playing with a teammate when peeking aggressively on defense, along with the proper usage of Reyna's abilities, as well as how to utilize Peeker's Advantage to increase the chance of winning gunfights. Now, fast forwarding to round 9. This is a full buy scenario for his team as they won the previous round, and ScreaM has taken full advantage of it by buying a Phantom, full armor, and all of his abilities. Again, we're going to get another great lesson from ScreaM's trademark aggression on defense. But before that, you have to realize how he's been consistently switching up where he's been pushing on defense. We first saw the showers push, then we saw the hookah push, and now he's going to push short A. This is absolutely key when looking to push aggressively on defense. You can't just repeatedly push the same location and expect it to work, as the enemy will start to catch on and wait to kill you. Instead, switch into playing a more defensive position in the next few rounds. Or, like ScreaM, simply swap with the teammate to push a different area. This will make you unpredictable and give you a significantly higher chance of success. Now, the short A push on bind is actually a super strong and simple tactic that players don't use enough. This is because if you can get into the cubby without being seen, like ScreaM does, the enemy will often be caught completely by surprise. As you can see, he peeks and the enemy Cypher is looking nowhere near him and makes for an easy kill. He then uses the orb that drops to cast Dismiss and gets back to safety. This is another huge part of this strategy's success. This can be Jet with her dash ability, or Omen with his dark cover and teleport. For example, if he was playing Sova, well then this A short push would have been far too risky, since once he killed Cypher, he'd be trapped in the cubby with the enemy immediately looking to swarm and kill him. However, agents with utility or mobility spells can get out of cubby quickly after getting the pick. Once he reaches safety on site, he calls out to his team that he killed A site lurker and will now look to rotate to B. But it begs the question, why is he deciding to preemptively rotate to B? Well, it's for two reasons. First, he killed Cypher, and throughout this game, the enemy Cypher has been filling the lurker role on the attack team. For those who are uninitiated, the lurker is someone on the attacking team that goes to the opposite site that the attackers are not trying to push to try to get picks on any defenders that try to look to push or flank, or simply looks to sneak into sight if the defenders over-rotate too early. Knowing the role of the lurker and that the enemy Cypher has been playing as a lurker on attack signals to ScreaM that the rest of the attackers are likely on the opposite side of the map of Cypher looking to attack B site. In addition to this, he spots an enemy Sova arrow on the minimap go into hookah, further confirming his suspicions. As he rotates to B, he spots on the minimap that his teammates begin to trade with the attackers in hookah and B long. I hope you're noticing a pattern of watching the minimap and just how beneficial it can be. This now brings the game into a 4v3 in ScreaM's favor, and the pressure is on his team to hold the sites as best as possible. What's interesting though is how ScreaM decides to almost immediately rotate back to A site, despite Sova being visible in hookah. Why is this? Well, this is definitely something more exclusive to high rank play, but you have to keep in mind that the enemy team already knows that his teammates Sova and Sage are in B site. Now, all of a sudden they are being shot at from the doorway and halls, a super common spot for A site players to be at once they've rotated. Additionally, this push has taken a decent amount of time, exactly enough time for an A player to have rotated to B. When you combine this with the fact that the enemy's B side attack hasn't worked out yet and is being delayed by utility, you can start to see why the attackers would likely look to do a fast rotate over to A site. This is also a pattern that ScreaM has become aware of as he's played in this game. The enemy team has been consistently falling back from pushes and executing fast rotates in other rounds. This is why he makes the decision to rotate back to A site. Now, compare this if you were in a lower ranked game. Well, then you'd probably want to stay B, as most players in that elo don't rotate and instead brute force pushes onto site. Additionally, pay attention in your own games as to what the attackers like to do. When they push, are they always committing to it regardless of how bad it goes for them or how long they've delayed? Or are they willing to rotate to the other site? The answers to these questions will help you know what to do in positions like these. Once ScreaM is rotated back to A site, he spots the enemy pushing in as predicted, but unfortunately loses the gunfight, which is honestly fine as you can't expect to win every fight you take. With that being said, this round was a great example of how important it is to switch up when you're playing aggressive on defense to avoid being predictable. Also, why the short A push into cubby can be so valuable, and how to properly preemptively rotate on defense and predict where the attackers are going to push. Now, jumping into offense starting with round 14. After winning the previous pistol round, ScreaM finds himself in the common second round scenario where he wants to win this round. But if his team full buys with armor inspectors, then they will be outgunned the next round when the enemy can full buy rifles. To solve this problem, ScreaM will be running the cheaper yet formidable rifle, the Bulldog. The Bulldog is a very powerful weapon when used properly. With a respectable fire rate of 9 rounds a second, it has a great damage profile of 115 damage to the head and 35 to the body. It also has a 3-round burst when aiming down sights. Because of the laser-like accuracy when aiming down sights, it often means you'll get a headshot with one burst. If not, you'll likely get a headshot with the second one, resulting in a super fast kill. Additionally, because of its damage profile, even if you hit them in the head once for 115 damage, all you need is one hit to the body to do 150 damage and get a kill on a full armor target. This, while all being 800 credits cheaper than a rifle, the Bulldog is definitely being slept on by a lot of the player base and is a great weapon to buy after winning pistol round so you can guarantee the win on second round, while still having enough firepower to compete with rifles on the third round. Now remember, they won the previous pistol round so the enemy team is saving. With that in mind, we want to ask you a question. What area of the map on bind should ScreaM's team absolutely avoid? The answer is hookah. When a team is saving, they can buy a shorty for only 200 credits, which can be a one-shot kill in close quarters. When entering hookah, you have 2 close angles you have to check, resulting in a 50-50 peek. Just straight up losing a gunfight against a shorty or the enemy team setting up a crossfire on both sides. This is why you want to stick to more open, long angles when facing a save round from the enemy, such as B long or short A. To start the round, his team opts into playing default positions. This is where they spread out across the map to look for picks and watch for any defenders pushing up and trying to flank. Here's the thing, this isn't always the best idea when facing a save round by the enemy. This is because if you leave teammates by themselves and they lose a gunfight, it can give the enemy a free gun upgrade. A really simple rule to follow is to group up when the enemy team is on a save round to avoid this scenario. Now, as soon as the round begins, we can hear one defender enter the teleporter. It is important to note that it is impossible to fake a teleport on bind except with the agent Omen. Omen can pull this off by jumping into the teleporter and casting his teleport ability right before you enter it. This will make the teleporter sound while then teleporting you back to where you started. Additionally, players can try to fake the teleport by throwing guns into it, but this makes a much different, lighter sound. If we look at the enemy team's composition, we can see that there is no Omen, and the teleport sound that was made was not from an agent, but from a gun or piece of utility going through. So we know at least one person went through the teleporter at the start of the round, which is very strange. ScreaM notices this immediately and calls out to his team to be wary and watch out in case it was a fake. What he means by this is that they could be stacking A and the teleport was to bait the attackers into thinking A site was clear. Notice how ScreaM and his teammates stay close and methodically check angles one by one. Then, as Rey swings into the final angle, ScreaM peeks with her in order to trade a kill if an enemy is there. This is how it should look when you're pushing into sites. First clearing angles one by one, then, when one final angle is left, swinging together to trade a kill on it. Even though it was a mistake, this was actually a great moment to highlight how effective of a rotation this teleporter can be for attackers on bind. In the process of making sure he stayed alive and was able to reposition himself, he accidentally hit the teleporter and comes out on the other side in B main. I'd be lying if I said this exact situation hasn't happened to me before. Let's say the defenders rotated from B site to stack A site as we tried to push short A. Perhaps they're U-Haul, or behind truck, or behind boxes in sight, or even heaven. Well, check this out. When you take the teleporter, look at how fast you can get into B site. You have an extremely short path through to hookah. Now look at the path the defenders have to take from A site. It's actually quite long. This is super valuable information to have. Let's say you see the entire enemy team on A site, or just one. You know, if you take the teleporter, you can actually get to B site before them, no matter how fast they try to rotate. After gaining control of B main, ScreaM watches his team's flank to make sure no lurking defenders are attempting to come up behind him or lurk behind his team from market or A short. In this round, you learned how the Bulldog is a much more effective purchase than most players realize. You also learned the importance of choosing what area of the map you'll push when you're facing an enemy on a save round, and how to properly push into a site with your teammates. Now phasing into round 17. After losing the previous 2 rounds, ScreaM and his team will get another chance at a full buy this round. This round, ScreaM will look to be going on the offensive, leading the charge with his team, largely due in part to having not only full armor in all of his abilities, but also having Reyna's ultimate available. If we look at the minimap, we will see 4 of his teammates converging on A short and 1 watching their flanks in B main. One thing to note is how cautious his team is playing as they push up to A short. If we go back a few seconds, we will hear ScreaM tell his team to be cautious and to wait for the enemy's potential one-way smoke on A short to disappear before they go.
He's doing the one-way brimstone. Maybe after the first one-way you can go?
Learning how to play around one-way smokes is a very important technique you will need to learn as you move up into the higher levels of play. In most situations involving one-way smokes, you have 2 options to deal with them. You can either wait for the smoke to dissipate, which is a straightforward and simple way to work around them, or you can smoke right next to the one-way to cut off a defender's line of sight. This will defeat the purpose of a one-way smoke and will completely mask your movements and will prevent them from being able to see you and anyone else next to you. As ScreaM's team begins their push, his Sova calls out that he will drone up A short to scout out for enemies hiding. Using Sova's drone is one of the best entry fragging tools your team can utilize. Sova's drone has the ability to not only see the map from a hiding position, it also has the potential to tag enemies and reveal them. This is crucial information for not only staying safe while pushing, but for also allowing your team to pick up a frag on the defender hiding in a concealed corner. The best asset an attacking team can have while pushing is the information on the enemy's locations, and working together in tandem with the Sova drone is the best way to achieve that. A prime example of this working in action is ScreaM Sova calling out a player close right in sight. This allows him to walk up and pre-aim the corner by Shower's door and allows him to pick up a clean frag on Brimstone before he can even retaliate. As he makes his way around the site after landing the first kill, he stands in place and allows for himself to be healed up to 150 before going back into the fight. Reyna's Devour ability, which will heal her up to max shields, which is 150 HP. Many Reyna players are impatient and do not wait for her Devour ability to heal her back to max HP before they re-engage, and they usually die as a result. Reyna is a heavy fragging agent, as we can see in this clip after ScreaM picks up 4 kills in a short period of time. One thing many Reyna players in my opinion lack is patience. Learning patience as a Reyna player will make you much more polished and controlled. In high level play, many players that know a Reyna is alive will not push her and they will wait out her abilities and will wait for her to walk into their crosshairs. Enemy players will look to avoid fighting a good Reyna head on as they do not want to die and set off her potential to chain frags together, which will spell trouble for their team. Because of this, many players will play extremely passive against a Reyna, and some will even retreat or fall back if they hear Reyna activate her ultimate. Playing with patience as Reyna means not always running headfirst into the enemy with the flash prepared trying to engage enemies as fast as possible. It means taking your time and slowly clearing your angles and checking your corners and hiding spots thoroughly for enemies. Playing with patience will allow Reyna to safely pick up her first kill, which in turn will allow her to use her abilities to her advantage and slowly allow her to take control of a site for her team. So how do you like the map Bind? Is it one of your favorites? Do you dread playing on it? Or do you find it to be balanced and fun? Let us know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides like this one designed with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. This is Sergeant Frost, and remember, winter is coming.